Hi and welcome to this new video about MyAniMATE3. So today we're going to take a look at still the rigging tools tab, and while introducing the modular rig setups, which is this section here, right? We're going to also introduce the best working method when you're doing something like this, and you want to make sure before you actually start skinning that your uh, skeleton setup like this is going to work fine. So as you can see here, there is no skinning applied. I just placed the joints how I thought it should be working correctly. Okay, so what we need to do here is to save this out as a scene. Okay, so it's saved, and this is where I'm going to set up the whole thing and make sure that everything works correctly for animation later on before I commit to skinning, and then maybe something does not work as I would like with the standard skeleton tool, especially for the legs. Now, quick tip there in the create character. This is one prime example of the mirror constraint thing. Okay, so over here, I had done all of the work on one side only and not the other side. And if I select this one, for example, and add the mirror constraint, I can make sure that whatever I do here is actually mirrored over to the other side. Okay, so again, remember, once you're done with one side, just remove the mirror constraint. Okay, so I want to make sure that this thing works, and in case it doesn't for animation, that I can address this before I commit to any skinning, because that's time consuming and quite long kind of work. So with this one saved, I will have another Maya instance open on the other side where I'm grabbing my animate and I'm going to reference, and here is a good example as per why referencing is great. And yeah, I have to set the project first. All right, here it is. And as the 2_donkey setup for the tutorial. And I'm going to reference the file. So yeah, we've got our friend here, and it comes in with the skeleton. Now what we're going to focus on right now is just the skeleton. Okay, so we want to basically test whether the skeleton is going to work for animation. And I mean, for ease of use, I can just go and save this as, and I'm gonna call it anim. Feel free to name it as however you want, because this way we can just reopen and reload whatever change we may be doing. Okay, so now I'm gonna create the animation avatar from here, and of course the mesh will not follow. What we're actually interested in is to look at how this thing will work. Okay, so moving to the rigging tools tab, we're going to the modular rig setups, And we have two sections, the chain type setter and the modules creator. Okay, I mean, scripting is not smart enough to understand what you want to do with a certain section of the body. So I had to come in and set up a system where each single type, chain type, has to be tagged somehow. So right now, if we take a look at this, and this is something that you shouldn't be doing manually anyway, we have a custom attribute here called chain type, and currently it is set to arm. But this is something that needs to become a leg, all right? Whilst the back is just a leg, right? And instead here we want it to be a quadruped leg. So let's change that, and let's go ahead and do 1, 2, and 3 to set this as either arm or leg, and I'm gonna set it as leg. You will see that it's now the chain type, it has changed. Again, don't do that manually. Okay, and set as leg. Down here, this is set to leg. Now the last two, which are set to be hand, this and these, all of these need to be set as foot. If I can select stuff, of course. Okay, so I'm gonna set that as foot. And now this is set up to be a leg. For what concerns instead a quadruped leg, the regular Second Life leg is basically missing one necessary joint. So wherever your end the uh, of the foot, where the tip is basically that's where we have to create a custom, just random joint basically. So I'm going to grab all of these meshes just to have a reference. Okay, all of them have their pivot point at the center, so I'm going to scale them up by 100 just to have a reference of where I want the tip there. And with that joint selected, here in the command line, we'll type in joint, switch to world orientation, and move it where the tip should be. Okay. Somewhere around there is okay. I'll do the same here. Joint. Move it forward. Let's make this bigger. And I'm not gonna leave that at a random location. I want it to be exactly the same as the other one. So I'm going to hold down the V key for the vertex or vector snap with this arrow selected, and then middle mouse click and drag so that they basically are at their same location. You see the numbers are the same, they're just inverted. And so now I can grab these and bring them back to 1. So now this is ready to become a quadruped leg. So I'm gonna select 4 joints, and if you just make a wrong selection, for example, and try to set that as a quad leg, it will tell you the quad chain type needs 4 joints selected, you had 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Quad leg, no complaint, as you can see. And it's now set to quad. 1, 2, 3, and 4, quad, and that's a quad. This is set to foot, also this is not, and also this other one, so set as foot. Right, some joint tags were not updated because we just created them from scratch. They're not actually part of a regular avatar, so don't worry about that. It's fine. Now, with that said, everything else is basically the same because spine, tail, everything else is already tagged correctly. Now, if I create the standard skeleton rig, you will see that in this case, in this specific case, everything got created correctly. All right? But that's because of this process. Now, let's see if I made some kind of mistake, especially on the quad leg that could be a bit sensitive, and on the front leg. So if anything was not created correctly, which means they should be on a straight, on a straight line as much as possible, okay, while maintaining bending everywhere. That describes the way you want it to bend when using the IK. So let's purposely make something not correct. So I grab this one, for example. I hit D, and I put it outside of alignment, and also this one outside of alignment. Cool. Remove. Mirror constraint. D. And something like this. D. And then remove. Alright. I'm gonna save this. I still am in time to Control Z. And going back to the second instance of Maya, where everything basically worked correctly, I'm gonna reopen this scene, so the anim, without saving. And as you can see that the reference basically reloaded from disk, you see? And so now we can test whether this thing works. So I'm going to do the same thing as that we did before. This time just not as precisely as before. Valid object or value, I don't remember, radius. Uh, 50. Yeah, that's right. Okay. 2, 3, 4. Set as quad. 3 and 4. Set as quad. 1, 2, 3. Set as leg. 1, 2, 3. Set as leg. 1, 2. Set as foot. Now we can take a look at what happens. So create the standard skeleton rig. And as you can see on the front, we have the pole vectors, clearly crossing. And also these other ones are basically having a crossing kind of direction. And you can test that. And this is definitely something you don't want to have. Maybe you can still live with whatever you have there on the back. Maybe. Yeah. Not quite sure yet. But yes, that's the basic gist of it. Now these controllers need, of course, to be offset depending on the actual distance and length of the limbs. Um, and so, right, uh, these should have a tip roll. It still works exactly as it should. You know, it's just the visual um, representation of the controller that's not correct. That just needs to be moved downwards and forward, made bigger. Well, we have the tools for that. But yeah, with this video, basically I want to point out how the referencing is and can be so useful to you to avoid uh, time losses down the line, making sure that whatever you're setting up as a skeleton actually works for animation with this tool. And so, yeah, this is not working. So I'm going to go back to the rigging stage here. In this case, the fixing I want to do is basically Control Z, so that I go back to the working um, status. It may take a lot of Control Z where you may not see any changes. It's because of all of the scripted operations that aren't visible. There. And basically the main rule of thumb here is to make sure that these are on a straight line to begin with. If you need to have a different orientation, start straight and then rotate for whatever you need to be the rotation. Okay, like this, like that. All right, and after you've done that, you can freeze the transformation and use skeleton orient joints, orient join to world with these options set and apply. That will make it correct for the rigging and for Second Life, while you will still keep everything basically in a straight line. It doesn't have to be straight and aligned to the world. They just need to be straight in relation to each other. So as long as you can keep that straight line from a joint to another, everything's fine. Everything's going to be fine. The only caveat could be, just in case, when using quadruped leg and using the spring IK, where is it? The spring IK chain, is that the pole vector is calculated from this line to the last one. Sorry, from this joint to the last one in your chain. All right. And its direction will be determined by which direction most of these joints are. So if we have 1, 2, 2, 3, and 4, All right, this is the last one. Just draw a line like this and try to keep the joints as biased as much as you can towards the direction that you want the pole vector to appear for you and to be manipulatable. All right, so as you could see before, indeed, if we drew a straight line from here to here, the bias is having this much distance for this one and this little distance for this one. It's basically telling the system, look, the pole vector is going this way. And indeed, okay, in this case it was wrong, but still being wrong, the pole vector was placed that direction. So on the front of the leg. If your setup has that bias to have that straight line with most of the joints shifted the other way around, so on the back, the pole vector will appear on the back. That's the only thing that could be confusing if not explained, of course. But yeah, now that we have fixed the thing, I will save it off, go back here, reopen this scene. I know it's, even if we, for example, if I do now a reload reference, it reloaded it, but this animation skeleton is not part of whatever was loaded, so it's basically a reference edit, and it's going to still obey whatever was created here. That's why we have to reopen the previous version. Right. The legs are now straight. Fine. So I can create the animation avatar. No collision volume bones. Something did not work this time. Oh, yeah, you see. Set attribute, a child attribute of donkey setup, blah blah blah. Rotate is locked and connected and cannot be modified. This means that in the original file, I forgot, or while doing Control Z, something still has the mirror. There it is. So it's not a problem with the with MyAniMate itself. It's because we have connections in place. Let's double check here. No connection, no connection, no connection. Okay. All right, let's save this off again. This one, yes. And so anim, don't save that. No more connections. Okay. So create. Now it works. Cool. And then let's do like this. And let's do like this. Remember to snap things to the same distance. Now this is completely random, but you get the point. We did it correctly the first time around. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the quad leg. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quad leg. This is already set as foot, right? Yes. So let's go ahead with the legs. Set as leg. 1, 2, 3. Set as leg. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Set as foot. And create the skeleton. There we go. Now it looks like it's kind of straight. And everything bends nicely. All right. Now let's say that you don't have that kind of setup there. Right? It's not an entire skeleton. So I'm going to remove that one. And I will show you the next thing, the modules creator. Now, again, this follows the same exact principles. So you have to set the chain type for whatever you want to do. And if you're using a subset of the joints to do whatever it is that you want to do, then just remember that the only one rule for MyAniMate is that the M pelvis should always be there. All right. So there is no need to have a arm-like type of movements being just the arm and removing everything else. You can remove everything and just keep the M pelvis. What's the name of this? M spine 1, M spine 2, and you'd be good to go to make an arm. Just set the type, the chain type as arm, and that would work. Now what this tool is gonna give us, I'll grab this and I will do a create leg module. Needs 3 joints selected and only one is selected. So 1, 2, and 3. Boom. And my leg module is there with IK and FK switch. Okay, let's make this into an arm, for example. So set as arm, which will require us to make these two as a hand. So set as hand. We will not have any IKFK switch here because the finger is not actually complete to make an IKFK. So 1, 2, and 3, and create arm module. The arm module has been created. The arm has the IKFK switch, but not the finger, because it's not complete and therefore cannot make it. So in this case, you would have to then add either a modular FK chain or a simple FK chain and integrate that inside of the module, which is this group here. This group contains a whole setup to make the thing happen. That's the leg. All right, and yeah, you can then start using the single module for a simpler kind of setup for something like especially animeshes, but that's not that simple to just require a modular FK chain or a simple FK chain. So for example, if I grab this, the tail, also the last one, and I do a simple FK chain, what constraints do you want to apply? No constraints. You will do that later. Or in constraints, just rotation. Parent constraint, rotation and location. Point constraint, just location. Let's do a parent constraint. Create hierarchy, yes. Cool. We've now got a super simple FK chain on the fly. I see this being used more than the more complicated things, so that you can animate quickly and easily. Now, let's go back there. The simple the simple FK chain is just a simple hierarchy with groups and all that to have all of the controllers zeroed out at their rest position and rotation. Okay, so let's remove those and let's see the module instead. Modular FK chain. It will do everything for you, and it's a whole module, okay, that contains a fake, a proxy, not a fake, a proxy tail that controls everything, okay, and that is just orient constrained. So the location will not work. Only rotation is going to be addressed by this kind of setup. Okay? This is because you don't want to have double transformations if you want to attach the module to something else that controls whatever pulls the main tail chain along with it. So it's like take the pelvis, take this one, and then with the constraint, you tell it, okay, parent constraint with maintain offset. And now if we move the pelvis, rotate, or translate, everything follows. But this doesn't need to be translating the whole thing. For that kind of stuff, you really need to have the simple FK chain. The whole rig from the, let's delete this stuff. The whole rig from the standard skeleton rig is made from these modular pieces. So if we go in and take a look, oh yeah, of course, I broke something. Because yeah, something broke because of my manipulations there. But anyway, regardless of the fact that now it's going to break because of some random manipulations I did, probably because I moved this sideways. Anyway, all of this rig setup, which lives within a rig setup, do not tamper with unless you know what you're doing. Right? It's all modules that are connected together somehow, okay, with constraints and all that. Now, having moved things around earlier and having changed, like this is an arm now. Probably that interfered because it didn't make any sense what I did. So yeah, just be careful. Set up things correctly. Don't move the skeleton around. This is most likely no longer where it should be. X, Y, and Z. That's probably moved off. Anyway, that's gonna do for me for today. I thank you very much for watching. And until next time, have fun I'll see you in the next video. Bye.